Welcome to Fans Fight Back, the fans forum for boxing chat with the Pitch Boxing app. So download it now. With me, Martin Theobald, and Will Michael. How you doing, Will?
Very well, mate. And yourself?
I'm all right. It's more your show now. Like, you come on it as often as I do. I like it. How's the world of boxing?
I'm a resident guest now.
You are. I like it. You can be a resident guest. How's the world of boxing? It's slow, in it, at the moment.
Yeah. We had a few fights over the weekend, and we got a couple this weekend. So I think it's starting to gather momentum, which is good.
Yeah, and then it'll head into August. No one ever does anything in August, do they? But maybe they will this year. With people can't go away on holiday and stuff. So maybe...
Well, obviously we had the AJ Fury that was planned for August, but that went belly up.
Yeah, that was going to be your holiday. So before we get into that, though, you had a big meeting, didn't you, with DAZN this week?
Yeah.
Let's not pretend this didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I went to pick up my dry cleaning in my at my local laundrette, and I bumped into Joe Markowski of DAZN.
In the laundrette?
No, it wasn't in the laundrette itself. It was on the way to the laundrette. So yeah, I made sure to remind him that we need better cards, more competitive matchups, and obviously to keep it at 199.
Was he on a scooter? I imagine Joe Markowski to be the kind of man that goes around on a scooter.
He wasn't actually. I think he was just in flip-flops, to be fair.
Was he? That's his work attire. You know that's his work attire.
Probably, yeah.
Right, while we're on the cause of DAZN then. So they've got their fight camps. It's the first UK product kind of been announced. And I'm now getting to the point where when I discuss boxing, I don't bother to research it anymore. I work on the basis of if I remember that it's there, then it's meaningful. And if it's not, then I don't care about it enough to have remembered it. What do you remember from the fight camp announcements?
Really just Conor Benn. Clearly the PR machine is being focused in his direction. They've made an announcement that Conor Benn and Matchroom have signed a 5-year deal, which I think is great for Conor Benn. He's an exciting fighter, and we want to see more of him. So I think that works well for the fans. And he had his little bust up, if you like, with Florian Marku, which I found quite entertaining. So yeah,
I like that. It's quite well coordinated in that it's not a fight anyone needs to see just yet. Let them build it up for when you can get a full crowd back. I think the risk is that Marku gets beaten in the meantime. I'm not under any illusion that Florian Marku is the next world champion, because I don't think he is. He's fun. He's great to watch.
So it's interesting that you say that, Martin, because I clearly am one of very few that actually rate him. And I think he would give Conor Benn a whole host of problems. I thought he dealt with Ryland Charlton really, really well. And he showed that he has potential, in my opinion. I think that would be a great fight. I really do.
I think it would be a great fight. Like, it would be over within 5 rounds, one way or the other. I don't even know which way it goes.
Fight.
Yeah, I've no idea which way it goes particularly, but the Ryland Charlton one for Florian Marku. Ryland Charlton's a light welterweight, a big hitting light welterweight, but he's a light welterweight regardless. And he dropped Marku in that fight. But Marku showed, decent heart to get up and I know Marku's a legit tough man. Like, there's no doubting that. His MMA record, for those that don't know, back in his home country of Albania, how he built up his record, or say how he built up his following, was that he basically went around all their neighboring countries and beat the shit out of like their top MMA fighters. And that was almost like he built up those local rivalries, and his home nation got on board with it. And he's a legitimate superstar back home in Albania. He's massive.
I was looking at his social media following, I think on Instagram, and it's something ridiculous. So yeah, he's clearly been built up very well in his homeland.
And whether that translates into boxing ability is, we'll find out over time. But he's fun. Yeah, he's quite a character.
Yeah, but let's not forget that Conor Benn is no killer. He went life and death with Piernu, and I think he's been marketed tremendously well, Martin. If you imagine, his last fight was against a Sammy Vargas who had lost, what, 9 or 10 times? Every time Vargas had stepped up, he had got either slept or completely schooled.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Conor Benn hasn't had a notable win, in my opinion. So as far as I'm concerned, they're at the same level.
And I don't think Granados is a notable win either.
Well, this was the point that Marky was making. I think Granados has got nine losses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what kind of step up is that? And then they're talking about, this is what I don't understand. This is what pisses me off with someone like Conor Benn. He calls out Amir Khan in 1 week, and in the other week he's talking up Granados like he is a top 10 welterweight. He's not. Again, another fighter who's been routinely beaten every time he stepped up a level. So,
and you know what? That's fine. That's fine for Conor Benn to be fighting somebody of that level with the experience of Conor Benn and where he's at. But it's very difficult to parlay that with the idea that he's a headline act. He's a potential pay-per-view star. Let him build against the likes of Granados. It's almost unfair on him to carry a show with his name alone.
Yeah, I mean, they were carrying the show. Which one was it? Was it his last fight when they
Vargas
just kept mentioning? Yeah, the Vargas, but there was a constant mention of Sean Porter and comparing. Oh no, it was that was it that German fella that he fought, who went 12 rounds with Porter, and they were selling the fight based on the performances.
Yeah, but I mean, the Vargas one, there was all the talk. It was always a talk of the future, not the talk of what's now. And it's always, I think that's going to be the case. While he's taking out these older, less relevant names, then you will always link him instead to Sean Porter and whoever, Adrian Broner, for instance. Like, link him to those names, but let him fight lesser names, even though Granados arguably beat Adrian Broner anyway. But
yeah, agreed.
But yeah, it almost feels unfortunate for him that he is having to carry these things when actually he'd be a great chief support to somebody bigger than him and let him build his resume that way.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that the British public are crying out for the next pay-per-view star, a headliner. We've had the likes of Groves, De Gale, Hay, even Bellew retire, and now it's a case of, are we clutching at straws? Have we just not got a breakout star in British boxing?
Yeah, and Khan and Brook you can add to that list to some degree. Like, they may not be retired, but...
Well, I mean, neither of them have announced their retirement, and the Brook one's interesting because he hasn't really said much. At least with Khan, he drops in the odd interview that he's looking for at least 2 more fights and he's out. But Brook, a little bit of an enigma.
Yeah.
But who knows?
So what else about Fight Camp stands out? There was Tommy McCarthy, Chris Billam-Smith. That's a good fight.
Yeah, that's a good fight. I think Billam-Smith has improved massively, and the setup that he's got at McGuigan Gym, the stable there is emerging, and I think he goes in as I would say quite a significant favourite.
But the flip side to that, and I love Chris Billam-Smith as a bloke. I think he's a breath of fresh air in that he's articulate and well educated, and he goes by the name of the gentleman. However, neither him nor Tommy McCarthy would you fancy to go any higher than where they're at, which is fighting one another. What do you do with the winner of it? I'm not even sure where you would go with them, because if you put either of them in with a Coley, which I appreciate wouldn't happen for Billam-Smith with the McGuigan link-up, but what would you do with the winner out of this fight? I'm not sure there's a narrative you can follow through with it.
Yeah, there isn't an obvious opponent or an obvious next step up. I think it's just matching them in competitive fights and fights that the public will enjoy.
Yeah. I would put good money on that fight going to points. I don't think either have it in them to take the other one out. But
yeah, I think also the flip of that is that they're both durable. They can both take punches. So yeah, I think
yeah, it's all right. I like that. I like that
over 6 rounds.
Yeah, I like that fight though. I think it's good. What else stands out? I
think the return of Ebony Bridges, that stands out.
Oh, isn't she fighting Beck Connolly?
Yeah. So I think she did herself a huge amount of favors in the performance that she had against Shannon Courtney. Real gutsy performance. She showed that she could fight. She was resilient. She dug in deep, hurt Courtney. So I'm genuinely intrigued to see how she gets on. And obviously you've got Shannon Courtney, who's back, who has to be one of the most dislikable characters in world boxing. I hope that she gets KO'd in fight camp. I think she's just she's just not a likable character.
So what did you make of her comments about Rachel Ball not fighting her? She knew she
massively disrespectful, massively offensive. To suggest that someone who has had COVID and who has been genuinely injured is trying to feign injury and avoid a fight. Let's not forget that Rachel Ball won that fight and dropped Shannon Courtney in that fight. So it's just ludicrous. Her claims are ludicrous.
There's part of me that wonders whether this is like a full heel turn by Shannon Courtney of like, right, I'm gonna get my way to piss everybody off, because Rachel Ball is so likable, like as a human being, outside of the boxing side of it. She's a care worker. She's just recovered from COVID. She's a part-time boxer, basically, who is taking on, somebody who's got everything stacked in their favor. She's trained by Adam Booth, Shannon Courtney. She's got the full Matchroom stuff behind her. She's got every advantage possible. The British love an underdog, and Rachel Ball ticks every single box going. Yeah. And then you sit and slag her off.
You just couldn't make it up, could you?
It's quite incredible. And I've met Shannon a few times, and she's a nice enough young lady, in real life when you sit and speak to her, but she doesn't come across that way when she does media engagements.
No.
I wonder whether it is almost a conscious decision to do that.
Yeah, I think sometimes at that level, you're not given the PR training that sometimes you need as a professional athlete. And I think she's just shown her true colours, really.
Yeah, so I don't even know who she's fighting in the end, Courtney. Someone for her kind of dodgy world title.
Yeah.
No idea. What else stands out from fight camp? Anthony Fowler's back. He's fighting. And again, I go back to my point. I don't bother to research these things before I do it.
I thought he was fighting the European champion in Sergio Garcia, but it turns out he's fighting another Garcia.
Yeah, it is a Garcia. It's not Ryan Garcia. Yeah. It's not Sergio Garcia. So I don't know.
So yeah, no, but I just feel that the fight cards that they announced were massively underwhelming for fight camp. They were selling it on the basis that the game was being changed, supposedly. Game hasn't been changed at all. You've got the odd, decent headline fight, but that's about it. I'm expecting a lot more. And inevitably that 199 will go up. And yeah, we'll see if they continue to deliver money. I think at the price point, we can't really argue. But as it goes up, we will demand better cards from top to bottom, really.
Yeah, Buatsi Bolotniks. That's an intriguing one. Don't mind that.
Yeah,
but you're right. There's a triangle almost of like what you've promised us against what the price point is against what you've delivered. And what you've promised us is huge. What you've delivered is no better than what you were delivering before, but you're doing it at a cheaper rate. So we'll kind of give you a bit of a pass. But, if that price had gone up now, and they made a big point of it's only $199 for Fight Camp, it shouldn't be any more than that because it's pretty shit. Like on the whole, the fact that we can remember between us about 4 fights that have been announced kind of sums it up, really. But for $199 a month, I'm all right with that. I don't really expect any more for that price point. And that price point is enough to deter me from looking at how I would view it without paying the official amount, which I might have done for other boxing in the past, perhaps. But for $199 a month, DAZN is a quality product as an app, so therefore I'm happy to pay that, and I'll sit and watch those fight, the whole Fight Camp. I probably won't watch the undercards because a lot of them are poor. But yeah, it's not what we were promised, but you almost feel you can't moan about it because it's too cheap to moan about.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Hopefully it's just a slow burner. They've made the announcement. They've got a few fighters out, and it will pick up momentum during and after Fight Camp. Let's hope.
Yeah, and I feel a bit sorry for Matchroom in that Fight Camp should be their supplementary product to their bigger products. It should almost be like a festival feeling at the end of a big season. A bit of fun to kind of top off what's been a busy year. But they've not had the opportunity to have that busy year, and they've switched broadcast partners as they're coming into it. It almost feels like the worst potential timing to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at this stage in the year, they would have hoped that fans would have been allowed back into arenas and stadiums, and that will perhaps perfectly segue into why I feel the AJ Usyk fight hasn't been announced, and that's due to the fact. Yeah, well, I just feel that they definitely want to do it in London, and this is an opportunity to give back to the fans, and this is something that I appreciate with Team AJ and Team Hearn. Let's not forget that Fury hasn't fought in the UK for 4 years and has no intention of fighting in the UK. He says that he won't. He's made Vegas his home in inverted commas, but at least AJ has recognized the fact that he was disappointing a lot of fans by fighting Fury in Saudi Arabia. And now that it's not happening, he's using this as an opportunity to almost give back to the fans and say, well, look, inevitably, if I do fight Fury, it will probably end up in Saudi. So we've got a little bit of control here. Let's have it back at home at Wembley. But we're still no further forward. Wembley, even despite us being involved in the Euros, isn't at full capacity, isn't anywhere near full capacity. So again, I think they're finding it difficult to reach that commercial agreement that satisfies Team Usyk and Team AJ. And I feel that's potentially the reason why it's been delayed.
Playing devil's advocate, do you think there's an argument that says Joshua Usyk isn't a big enough fight to be attractive to overseas site fees and the Saudi Arabian ones? Would they even be interested in a Joshua Usyk when? And I appreciate they were for Joshua Ruiz, but that was for him to win the belts back. That came with a story behind it. For Joshua Usyk, would the Saudi Arabians, especially after they've been promised Joshua Fury, would they be as interested in hosting a Joshua Usyk? Is it almost like their hand is forced into taking it to London because they haven't got the interest overseas to broadcast?
Yeah, you could be right there, and I think they might be forward thinking and anticipating that Team Hearn and Team Fury come back to the negotiating table once they win their respective fights and plan that undisputed fight end of the year, early Jan, Feb. So they're probably thinking, look, if we're going to invest in boxing in this type of event, let's do it for the real big one rather than a fight that isn't really going to attract a huge amount of interest in that part of the world.
I see Joshua came out was it today or yesterday with a couple of interviews. He's been doing his media rounds and said about the Fury fight falling apart, and he's still going to be there after he finishes with Usyk. And he feels it makes it into an even bigger fight now come the end of the year. After all the build-up for this that ultimately never happened, is that actually it makes any potential fight down the road even bigger, which makes me think, have you just played everyone off? Like, have both teams played everyone off and built it up now for something that they maybe knew wasn't going to happen for another 6 months anyway? Yeah. Which I don't have an issue with.
Yeah, I personally feel that understandably, a lot of boxing fans will be cynical. I just think with AJ, he has to be positive at this stage, and he's a naturally positive, optimistic person. So he's recognizing the fact that, look, he has to fight Usyk, Fury has to fight Wilder. He would be disappointing a lot of British boxing fans if he just poo-pooed a potential undisputed fight. And he's saying all the right things. He's saying, look, with or without belts, the Fury fight is a big one. And I personally believe him. I just don't know whether we will get to that stage where both fighters win their respective fights.
I'd agree. And I don't know which one loses, but I fear for one, both, I'm not sure, could potentially do it. But do you reckon that we'll see Joshua Usyk? Do you reckon that's just, as you say earlier, that, and it's a fair point around the fans being allowed in and the commercials that come with, ultimately, they both want paying for it. Do you think it's just a matter of they're being delayed while they probably started with a number and that number's had to come down over time because of the regulations not being eased as much as hoped? And again, you feel for the people involved in this because the parameters are moving almost constantly. But
yeah, absolutely. I think if you imagine even from AJ's side, he's been used to commanding 25, 30 mil a fight. I imagine he took a big hit when he fought Pulev in front of 1,000 people at Wembley Arena. And he was probably told that that was going to be a one-off on the basis that we were in a pandemic and his next fight would be a big one, potentially an undisputed. So I imagine it's not just on Team Usyk's side where there's a potential delay in agreeing terms. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ's not happy with having to take potentially a 50% pay cut and fight in a Tottenham stadium that's only going to be a quarter of the way full.
Yeah, and also you've got the other issue of it being his last fight with Matchroom, and presumably there are conversations around. I've got a cat's tail coming, join me. There must be conversations. You what, say?
I thought that was a snake.
No, it's my cat. I'm gonna bring him in. He's joining us for this episode.
What's his name?
That one's Tiger. Got Tiger and Ollie. He's not happy about this. Doesn't want to be on camera.
Fair enough.
Oh, screwed my video. There we go. Yeah, there must be talks from Joshua's side and from Matchroom's side about the extension of the contract. And again, those commercial things come into it, that perhaps there are conversations to be had around how much you'll earn for this fight and how much you'll earn for subsequent fights if he signs a longer term contract now. Because of course Hearn's going to want to tie him down to something longer than just the next fight. All these things will have an impact upon whether they can agree that Usyk won and on what terms.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes. This was a fight that everyone thought would have been signed by now.
Yeah.
So
that's because Hearn keeps telling us it'll be signed by now. Keeps telling us it'll be this week.
That is true, but also you have to understand that if he's being asked questions, he has to answer them. Playing devil's advocate, he's not going to do a Frank Warren and give you a list of questions that you can ask him prior to the interview.
No, I do agree with that, in that it must be really hard when you're asked the same question 10 times a day by 10 different interviewers. But you think he might have learnt his lesson after the Fury Joshua debacle and the fact that I'm going to announce it next week. I'm 6 days away. I'm 5 days away. And then it never came off. You think you might have toned it down a little bit.
Yeah, or changed his tact and just said, look, I'm not answering this question.
Yeah,
See
but
how that went down.
it's almost admirable, that continued positivity and like aggressive approach to it that he has, even if it's total bollocks at times.
Well, he is a salesman after all, isn't he?
Yeah, a very good one. A very good one. As much as I'd like to give Hearn grief, he's brilliant at what he does, which is to sell you a dream and a story, even if you never see it.
100%. I mean, it's not surprising that his interviews on the boxing media channels do more views than most boxers, to be fair.
Yeah, he's a bigger product in British boxing than most boxers. Even if the product he delivers is second rate a lot of the time, he's, you know, it's always selling you that future vision, and that's what he gets by on.
Yeah.
Admirable, admirable. If you can deliver a subpar product, but tell people your next one's always going to be better, and people still buy that subpar product, you're doing a brilliant job.
100%. That's why we love him.
Yeah, it is. He's polarizing for that reason. But I say, admirable. You were chatting earlier about the Fury Wilder stuff. What did you make of that press conference there?
Very disappointed in Wilder. Clearly, he's someone who doesn't like taking criticism, likes to have a lot of yes men around him. And he's been banging on for the last 6 months about Fury and all of these cheating allegations. And this was his first opportunity to physically confront him, to stick it on him verbally. And he just stayed quiet.
He's a keyboard warrior. Wouldn't say it to your face.
Yeah, well, perhaps. But I just thought it was just massively disappointing. And I think he was disrespectful to the host of
Christina Poncher.
Yeah, Christina Poncher. I thought that was massively disrespectful. She was tapping him on the shoulder, and I think he could have made his position much clearer at the outset, and it just would have avoided any sort of confusion her end too.
Yeah, that's what I didn't like. I mean, to some degree, I don't mind his approach of turning up, because we know Fury, like him or loathe him, he's very good at the mind game side of things. Going back, you know, the Klitschko one's an obvious one.
David Haye.
The David Haye stuff, even the second Wilder fight and the first Wilder fight to some degree, he's masterful at getting into your head before that bell goes. So actually, if you take that away, if you put headphones on, you let Malik Scott do your talking for you, I can see some sense in that. I can't see the sense in not engaging with the poor woman whose job it is to try and help you sell this fight. She's ultimately there to help him make more money. That's what it comes down to.
No, I'm convinced that Deontay Wilder is stupid. He lacks intelligence, and you could argue if you're giving Wilder the benefit of the doubt that he strategized and thought, well, I'm not going to play Fury's game. I'm not going to engage. But then what did he do after the press conference? He had the opportunity to speak to the esteemed American boxing media. He chose not to answer any of their questions and instead give interviews to the arse-licking Ellie Seckbach and all the other yes men boxing media. And it just goes to show he's just not someone who's able to accept criticism, and just massively disappointed in his attitude, really.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves prior to their fight night, and whether he engages more with Fury, or if that is just his MO for the entirety of it, just to, you know, blank him, not engage with it, and then turn up on fight night and presumably hope that you've managed to blank everything that's come before it and you just two men in a ring.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just showed a sign of weakness. And with the headphones on, it reminded me of when Haye fought Bellew in the rematch.
Yep.
And after Haye had finished his ring walk and he was in the ring, he stuck his headphones on because he wanted to drown out the sound of Tony Bellew's ring walk entrance. And I just thought that was a bizarre thing to do. And it showed a sign of weakness, in my opinion, that he wasn't willing to face the adversity that was coming his way. And
Well,
I think it's the same
maybe
with
just really
Walter.
hated. Maybe he really hated Z Cars as a tune
I
because
mean, it's a shit song, to be fair.
Yeah, I think I'd drown it out if I had the opportunity. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how that one plays out before their fight. The other point I was going to go on to, Wasserman Boxing. I don't know if you've seen this one today, where they've announced their link up with KSI.
KSI.
I mean, it's not clear what that deal is, but they've kind of alluded to the fact that it's going to be celebrity / YouTube boxing only. So not necessarily stepping on the toes of professional boxing per se.
Yeah.
What do you make, like, I don't know, if that is what it is.
They're just jumping on the bandwagon, and fair enough. There's clearly a market there. DAZN have done it with Jake Paul and Logan Paul. They've both featured in different fights on their platform. Showtime have done it recently. And why wouldn't Wasserman jump on the bandwagon and do a deal with KSI, who's clearly very popular?
I suppose the grey area for me would be those other ones that were mentioned. So Jake Paul, he fights on a legitimate professional license. Logan Paul, his one with Mayweather wasn't a professional, like an actual bout, was it? It was an exhibition, but against a serious name. So these are just going to be presumably two YouTubers, two TikTokers, two whatever things I don't understand at 38 years of age. You know, why they're popular, but they are.
Yeah.
My kids understand it more than I do, and they engage with it more than I do.
I share your sentiment, Martin. And maybe that's because we're the same age.
There we go.
But no, I just think it's just a commercial decision by Wasserman. The celebrity boxing matchups, whether they're exhibitional fights, clearly there's a market for that. So why not? It's just a layer of what they're offering. I just hope that Wasserman Boxing and Kalla delivers on his own promise about bringing a whole stable of fighters through and giving us competitive matchups.
But you're my age. You'll remember the old MTV Plasticine Celebrity Deathmatch program.
Yeah.
I want to see it like that. Like, just let them beat the absolute shit out of one another.
Yeah.
Hell for leather.
No boxing licenses. Just go for it. A little bit like that Bolivian fight. I don't know if you
One
saw
way stamped on him.
Yeah. How mental was that? Not only did he drop him, but he proceeded to boot him in the head a couple of times.
That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, what you said there, man, being unlicensed, I don't think they'll do it licensed, because I don't think, from what I understand of where the board are at present,
the British board.
Yeah, the British Boxing Board of Control are quite stringent at present around who they will or won't license.
And I massively respect them for taking that stance.
Yeah,
a little bit like I think the Vegas Commission are quite strict too. Mayweather recently came out and said that he wanted the fight in Vegas, but the Vegas Commission were just not happy to license that fight, and that's why it went to Miami.
It's interesting, but yeah, I mean, along the same lines, I don't foresee this KSI product, assuming it takes place in the UK, because that's where KSI is most popular. I don't see that it can be sanctioned by the board. So I think you end up with, glorified white collar boxing, which is fine. I don't have an issue with that, because ultimately you're going to end up with two hopeless individuals smashing the crap out of one another in 50-50 kind of fights that don't take anything away from the professional product, because they're going to be, as long as it's marketed separately, which I'm sure it will, because it's a different target audience, I don't think it takes anything away from boxing at all. Whether it adds anything to boxing, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with Danny Flexen of Seconds Out on Twitter earlier, that if you assume 200,000 people view a fight, a TikToker versus a YouTuber, I don't know if that's realistic or not, but work with that. If you can convert 1% of that audience, that's 2,000 additional boxing fans that are up for grabs.
Yeah.
1% to me doesn't seem, impossible or out of the realms of possibility. So that's then down to boxers to do their part to convert that 1% and become fans of them as boxers. And if you're teaming up with Wasserman, so Wasserman signed my friend Linus Udofia last week.
Yeah.
If they've got any sense, they'll be trying to cross-pollinate that YouTube, TikTok audience with their boxers that they've got on their legitimate stable.
Get him on a KSI card.
Well, yeah, I mean, you may not be able to, in that if it's not licensed by the board, you probably can't have both going on at the same time.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
But you've still got the same platform that you ought to be able to try and bring those over. But it's ultimately down to the boxers to engage with the content and try and, get in on the threads on Twitter, get in on the hashtags. And I'm not just talking about Wasserman's box. I'm talking about every boxer out there should be seeing it as an opportunity to try and build their own profile, like piggyback on, shamelessly self-publicize. Not so they're going, oh, this lot of shit, like, oh, they're a disgrace to the sport. Yeah, they probably are shit. Yeah, they probably aren't real boxers, but it's your opportunity to build your profile based on other people's success.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Too many boxers are resentful of this this additional layer of this boxing market, and I agree. They should do more self-promotion. They should jump on the bandwagon if they can, and it's all part of the game. It's all part of the game. It's not just about how good you are, but it's also how popular you are. So
it's almost like it's a different route into the sport. Instead of spending 5 years as an amateur, 10 years working your way up to elite amateur level and then turning over, it's 10 years of building up a YouTube following and then becoming a boxer.
Yeah, I mean, what better example is there than Logan Paul? He's just fought one of the best fighters of our generation based off of his social media popularity.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Dude was on Disney Channel as a child. He was, he's been going around on YouTube filming bodies in Japan or whatever it was. I can't remember if that was Logan or Jake.
Yeah, I mean,
you
have to feel sorry. Yeah, you have to feel sorry for the likes of Amir Khan. He was chasing that Mayweather fight for about a good 6 years. And then you've got Logan Paul, who builds up this social media popularity and then gets the fight with Mayweather and probably makes about 10 mil.
I hadn't even considered that. Poor old Amir sat at home.
No, I remember it vividly when Amir Khan was competing with Maidana to get that Mayweather fight. Yeah. Floyd put out a poll.
He did.
Vote on who you'd like my next opponent to be. Khan walked it. No word of a lie, Martin. I messaged all of my friends and family. I said, look, you guys need to vote on this poll. We need to make this Khan Mayweather fight. And Khan wins, but still doesn't get the fight.
Maybe that's why Khan did that BBC reality program with his wife. Maybe that's his way into the Mayweather fight.
Maybe. It's quite entertaining. You should give it a go.
I haven't watched it. Is it any good?
It is. It's very entertaining.
I'm going to have to jump on iPlayer and watch that. I'd imagine it's Car Crash.
It is.
Brilliant. I'm going to have to go and find that. Right. I think that's all for the boxing world, Will. Is there anything else that I've missed? Anything that you want to discuss?
We've got Lomachenko who's back this weekend.
He is.
Nakatani.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about Nakatani. Is he any good?
Yeah, I saw a few recent clips and reminders of his fights. He had one with that Puerto Rican guy who ended up on a murder charge, Felix Verdejo.
Yeah.
Did you read that story?
Well, the one where he had the girlfriend as well as the wife, and the girlfriend ended up in a river, shot from a bridge. Absolute madness. Like, that's one of the craziest stories. Like, boxing's full of crazy stories. I can't wait to see Steve Bunce recount that ringside in about 10 years.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Lomachenko. I find him arrogant. I was delighted that Lopez dominated him, and I hope that he picks up a back-to-back L this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan. He just has this arrogance about him. For me, he's a polarizing character. A lot of people love him. Personally, no, I think he should just retire.
Wow. He's a strange one in that whole division seems to have moved on.
He's achieved everything in the game, to be fair. But I think it's a young man's game. His division in particular is a difficult one. So,
but I don't see any of. If he was washed up, you would see the likes of Haney, Garcia coming after him, even Tank Davis.
Well, Haney wanted him, and this is part of why I don't recognise Lopez as undisputed. Haney wanted the Loma fight, and Loma ducked him. It's as simple as that, and that's why Haney is WBC champion, whether you like it or not, and Lopez is unified champion. So that's the fight that we want to see: Haney versus Lopez.
Yeah.
I want to see it, and I personally feel that when the dust settles, Haney will be the one that stands top of that division.
Do you know what? Nah, for me, even more than that, I want to see Tank Davis versus Lopez. I think that, but I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't care at all if you've got Lopez, you've got Garcia, you've got Davis, you've got Haney. How can you have 4 outstanding young fighters not fighting each other? It's detrimental to the sport. Don't sit and whinge about YouTubers taking places in the sport.
Fair enough. And this is part of the Mayweather problem, the Mayweather effect, if you like, because you've got Team Mayweather who are effectively promoting Tank Davis, and they're selling this fight on the basis that Tank's going to become a 3-weight world champion, when he's really just picking up another stupid WBA regular belt.
Yeah.
And I don't see Tank fighting anyone across the street. I really don't. I think he will, and they will be happy to just pick up these paychecks, these wins within their own stable of fighters. I think we've got a much better chance of seeing Haney versus Lopez than we have of seeing Tank against these guys. And even with the Garcia situation, again, it's a bit of a mystery to me, because Garcia fought Luke Campbell to become effectively Haney's mandatory.
Mandatory, wasn't
he? And then he didn't want the fight, and they were on the same network, or still are on the same network.
I can have some sympathy with that, in that he's taken the time away from the sport for his own well-being. So I'd give him a pass on that, and give him a kind of 12-month window when he returns to come back and do something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, how can you have all that talent? And I agree with you. I don't think, and I'm a massive, massive Gervonta Davis fan. I love him, and he's fighting this weekend. He intrigues me because he's such a. You get that impression.
He's a raw talent.
He's a raw talent. He's probably a dickhead. I'd take a punt at that, in that he comes across so angry about everything. But he takes that anger into the ring and then batters people, and that's what you basically want to see. And for that reason alone, I liken him to a young Mike Tyson, if you like. He's got that
someone with a huge amount of rage that he's trying to contain, and then it just explodes in the ring.
Yeah, and we all want to see that as fans. As much as we all pretend that we're like, oh, we love the sweet science, what we actually really love is people that go in there and look to take people out with that Santa Cruz knockout was devastating.
Yeah, that was eerie. That was unnerving.
And even my son, who's 11 years old, he was sat on TikTok the other day. I was sat in his bedroom, and he was flicking through his phone. He went, "Dad, watch this," and it was that knockout.
That's brilliant. Was that a proud moment for you?
Yeah, it was. But like by osmosis, that knockout has made its way into TikTok land, an 11-year-old's consciousness, which brilliant. Like brilliant for the sport if that's how it gets in there.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, absolutely.
you know, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with my 11-year-old son watching a man get folded like a deck chair on the road, but whatever.
That was a scary knockout, to be fair. I think what made that knockout worse is, in the same way you describe Davis as being this potential monster of a character, Santa Cruz is the other side of that spectrum. Very softly spoken character, goes about his business, clearly a family man, but got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, and your mind goes back to the Santa Cruz Frampton, you know, where like Santa Cruz was going to stay at Frampton's house if they had a third fight. And then, you know, he's clearly respectful, just a family man, individual.
Gervonta Davis, I don't think it's the type of character you'd want staying in your spare bedroom, put it that way.
Yeah, but if he wanted to, I'm not really sure you'd be able to stop him. Like, if he said he's sleeping in your wife's bed with him, yeah, all right, well, you know, I'll make you breakfast in the morning. We'll sort that out. Yeah, but cool. I think we set the world to rights, Will.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Very much. Joining Fans Fight Back, Pitch Boxing. Make sure you download the app. I think that's probably the only way you can watch us, as far as I know, but I'm not a technical expert. So chance I've already got the app anyway by this point. So, but thank you very much for your time, Will. Much appreciated as always. Our now resident
Pleasure.
guest.
Giving my expert opinions. You too, mate. All the best.
Man.
Cheers. Bye-bye.